Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Service Dog channel. I'm not a lawyer, dog trainer, or disability representative, so if you have a situation going on, contact a lawyer or call the Department of Justice's toll-free ADA information line at 1-800-514-0301. The information I give you comes from my personal experience and internet research. To whom it may concern, Section 107 of the Copyright Act allows the unlicensed use of copyrighted materials for the purpose of commentary, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm going to summarize a news story by Taylor Mayberry called LEAD Spotlights First DoD Firefighter and Service Animal Team at the Depot, dated August 22, 2024, on a website called dvidshub.net. LEAD stands for Letterkenny Army Depot, and DoD stands for Department of Defense. Letterkenny Army Depot is located in south-central Pennsylvania in a town called Chambersburg. On June 17th, firefighter Buddy Niner and his service dog Bee began working at the LEAD's Fire and Emergency Services. Buddy is a Marine Corps veteran of 12 years, and after serving in the military, he decided to become a DoD firefighter. Since his time in the Marines, Buddy has suffered from PTSD. His service dog, Bee, who he obtained from Warrior Canine Connection, has been trained to interrupt his nightmares, turn lights on and off, retrieve objects for him, give things to other people, and provide deep pressure therapy for grounding. Taylor wrote in her article that firefighter chief David McLinn said, "Bee didn't just impact Buddy, she impacted all of us. Bee brings positivity out in everybody and knows when someone in the station is having a hard time and will walk over and try to cheer them up." Here is a public domain photo taken by Taylor Mayberry showing Buddy and Bee. Look at those cute little painted nails on Bee's paws. There are a lot more pictures on the website where I found the article. Buddy was touched that Letterkenny accepted him and Bee and assisted them in getting started in the department. I'm actually shocked that the fire department accepted Buddy and Bee without a fight. I've heard so many stories of people who have tried to bring their service dogs to work but get immediate rejection and pushback from their employers. Sadly, it's rare that disabled employees have the financial resources to hire a lawyer to help them with it without concern for how much money they'd lose if they lost the case. Most people don't know or understand the process of pushing it through, and many companies have gotten away with weak excuses for refusing to allow an employee to bring a service dog to work with them. This story is such great news for the service dog community. Being able to bring a service dog to work with you is a much more complicated situation than being able to bring a service dog into other places as a member of the public. It's very in-depth and requires many steps, including revealing what your disability is to your employer, and that can be very hard to do. In other news, on August 27th, 2024, KDKA News reporter Megan Schiller in Pittsburgh covered a story about Stephen Gailey saying that Greyhound refused to let him board a bus with his service dog. Gailey suffers from seizures, and his service dog Neil alerts him when a seizure is about to happen. That way, Gailey can lay down to prevent injuries from falling during a seizure. Because of his seizures, Gailey is not able to drive, so he relies on public transportation like Greyhound. Unfortunately, the bus drivers are not versed in service dog law. They obviously don't know what they're allowed to ask or require of a service dog team. Not only have many drivers refused to allow Gailey and Neil on the bus, but some have even publicly interrogated him about why he has a service dog, the breed of his service dog, and what his disability is, all of which is illegal. On one attempted trip, Gailey didn't have a vest on his bulldog because it was so hot outside. Most people assume that a service dog has to be marked in some way, and that is simply not the case. Dogs can become overheated in hot weather just like people do, especially when they have thick material covering their bodies. Gailey travels to Harrisburg once a week to help implement a clown training program for inner-city youth at Self-Esteem Ministries. They will go to hospitals and help cheer up patients. He gets denied boarding or asked inappropriate questions frequently. Gailey says that since he has exposed Greyhound, the public relations department has contacted him and assured him that they understand and are working to resolve his issue, but Gailey stated that nobody in leadership is willing to talk to him. It's encouraging to see that the news station did a segment on this story, and they informed their audience that businesses can only ask service dog handlers 2 questions. 1, is that a service dog required for a disability? And 2, what task has the dog been trained to perform? The reporter mentioned that businesses are not allowed to ask for documentation, make the dog demonstrate its tasks, or ask what the person's disability is. They also discussed that a service dog can be any breed, and there are times when a service dog is allowed to bark, like when they're alerting their handler to something or when provoked. I'm wondering if maybe people don't remember service dog laws after they hear them because they don't understand the logic behind them. I don't blame the drivers for not knowing the rules. I think every job has some type of training, and this information should have been covered in their training program before they were put in their positions. Since many people don't understand the struggles of invisible disabilities, they often judge, scoff, and berate persons with invisible disabilities who are using service dogs or parking in handicapped parking. My brother has an artificial leg, and it's not obvious to anyone who sees him getting in and out of his car. He frequently gets yelled at by people for taking up a handicapped parking spot for, quote, truly disabled people, end quote, because he appears to be a healthy young man in their eyes. My dad had a pacemaker and a heart condition that caused him to become very out of breath from walking short distances. This was his invisible disability because people who saw him getting in and out of his car could see nothing obviously wrong with him. Please stop judging people who have service dogs or use handicapped parking spots based on your incorrect assumption that there is nothing wrong with them, yet they, in fact, do have an invisible disability. Since we are on the subject of Greyhound and service dogs, here is a related topic. There was a court case pertaining to transportation of service dog teams in 2014. The National Federation for the Blind filed a lawsuit against Uber because UberX drivers are refusing to support many blind individuals who use service animals. Some UberX drivers also allegedly, quote, seriously mishandled guide dogs, end quote, and harassed blind customers with guide dogs. Uber allegedly failed to respond, did not take steps to address the discrimination, and denied responsibility for the discrimination. 2 specific sections of Title III ADA law prohibit disability discrimination by public accommodations and by certain transportation providers. Uber argued that their app or website did not constitute a place of public accommodation and that they did not own, lease, or operate a place of public accommodation under the ADA. The DOJ showed up in court because they had a vested interest in supporting the ADA's proper interpretation and application. That interest included 2 goals: furthering the statute's intent to provide clear, strong, consistent, and enforceable standards addressing discrimination against individuals with disabilities, and ensuring that the United States plays a central role in enforcing the standards established in the ADA. The United States' interest was particularly strong here because the Federation for the Blind alleged discriminatory denial of full and equal access to transportation to ensure equality of opportunity, full participation, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency for individuals with disabilities. The regulation defines coverage to include most types of transportation provided by private companies. This includes any transportation services provided by private entities that involves calling for a vehicle and a driver to take one places, including taxi services and other transportation services. Private companies that transport people are obligated to make reasonable modifications in policies, practices, or procedures when necessary to avoid discrimination. This includes waiving the no pets policy for service dogs. In 2016, the case was settled. Uber confirmed that it would teach drivers that they are obligated to transport riders who have service animals. The company would also ensure that all drivers affirm that they understand that this is required by law. Their enforcement policies would include deplatforming a driver with even just one complaint that they refused to transport a disabled person with a service dog if the complaint was found to be true. If a driver receives more than one complaint about the same discriminatory issue, they would be permanently deplatformed. Uber's app would also be modified to more easily track such complaints. The National Federation for the Blind would be using people to test Uber for several years to ensure they were complying with the agreement. One thing I did that fostered a good relationship between service dog teams and drivers is that I used to carry a twin-size sheet in a backpack when I used transportation services like Uber or Lyft out of consideration for how hard it is to get dog hair out of car upholstery. It didn't stop every hair from landing in the car, but it prevented a significant amount. The drivers appreciated it. I also brought large sheets to cover the bedspreads at hotels. Like, share, and subscribe!